I've come down to another favourite location of mine tonight to do a bit of coastal photography, a place called Armour Cove, which is on the South Devon coast. Been here quite a few times, but I haven't been here for a while, and I certainly haven't shot it in 6x17, which I've got tonight. I've got my 6x17 camera. It's a clear sky tonight as well. There's a few bits of cloud on the horizon, which is good. I don't really want bright sunshine, and I'm a little bit dubious to whether or not the 6x17 will work in the particular composition I've got in mind. But there are two compositions that I'm going to focus on. I'm going to be here, it's a couple of hours yet until sunset, so I'm going to be here for quite a while. But I thought I'd get down nice and early. It's normally quite quiet down here, hopefully. So yeah, we'll go down and get set up and have a look at some compositions. All the times I've been here before, I've either shot digital or Fuji Velvia, but I've got Kodak Ektar tonight. I must admit, I'm still not convinced with this film. I'm giving it a go at different locations and seeing what sort of results I get. The scans I'm getting back are okay, but I know that it's a lot more muted than, say, Velvia and Provia. So it's just trying to find the subjects that suit. I've got a couple of shoots in mind to use it, a bit more of urban style photography, which I think will work quite well. But I'm going to try it tonight and see what it comes out like. I've also got some black and white, but depending on the light, I don't know if I'll use that tonight, but we'll see how things go. Well, we're here, and once again I'm blighted by the wind. Doesn't make it easy to actually record these videos when it's blowing a gale. Never mind. Also, a bit of a disappointment is the beach. We've had quite a few storms recently, as you well know, in the UK. And the beach is covered in seaweed. And also there's an inlet that runs from the back of the beach down to the ocean. Now that normally curves in and out, nice S-curve across the beach. But at the moment, I'm assuming because of the tides and the change in tides, it's shifted the sands around. And it's right over the other side of the beach, so that's one of my compositions out the window. Now the main one, which I'll show you in a minute, I won't talk into the wind because obviously all you'll hear is wind noise, but I'll show you the composition that I want to sort of try out tonight. It's looking quite nice, tide's dropping, so just a case of waiting around now. I've got a few hours to wait, so I'm going to try out a few compositions on the phone with my Viewfinder app, just to see what works, so when it comes to the time when the light's good, I can literally just set up and crack on. So this is my composition. I've shot here quite a few times before. This lovely subject in the foreground, this nice sharp rock which looks like a shark's fin, and the tide's going out now, so all these rocks in the foreground here, they'll be exposed and they go off on a diagonal over to the horizon. Makes a really nice shot. You've got some quite dark rocks on the right hand side, so once the sun drops it can be a bit tricky exposure wise for those. Now I've shot this in square format before and also in the 3:2 format in 35mm, and it works fine, but in panoramic I'm not too sure. But saying that, there's to the left of the rock here, it's got the shadow of the rock. Now I'm thinking if I place the rock slightly off centre but still have that shadow off onto the left hand side of the frame, it might be an interesting composition. We shall see, but I'm hoping the light's going to drop down behind those rocks on the right hand side just enough to give it a bit more contrast in the foreground, and then some nice side light on the rock and still maintain that shadow. So I've had a good wander around with my Viewfinder preview app, taking a couple of shots on the phone, and it's the only composition I can see at the moment, which is a bit of a shame, but you know, it is what it is. But I think I can possibly get two compositions once the tide drops a little bit more. wind is getting worse. Every time I come out it's windy, it drives me nuts. And it's getting cold, as you can see I've put my hat on now. It's starting to get cold. I'm standing around waiting for the sun to drop, so it's getting a bit nippy. The camera's set up, got everything set up ready to go. I've marked the lens focusing barrel now, the helicoid focusing mount, with focus marks for infinity and also 2 meters and 5 meters, which is a real help when I'm setting up. I can fine tune it with my loop on the back, but when I'm initially setting up, it's great, it's quick. I don't know if you saw my first video of my first shoot with this camera. I'll put a link up to it now up the top here. But I did talk about the fact that there was no marks on the lens for focusing marks, for distance scales, for hyperfocal distance. So I'm trialing them out. They seem to be pretty good. But yeah, so I've just got to sit around and wait now. Might be a few hours. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk to you for 2 hours, but it's looking nice. The sky's kind of clouding up a bit now, which I was kind of hoping for. It was a clear blue sky when I got here, but there's some nice cirrusy clouds coming across now. So I'm hoping once the sun drops, it'll be quite nice. I've lost that shadow at the moment, but I think there's a gap on the horizon, which I'm hopeful for. When it drops into that gap, it should give me some nice shadows across the left-hand side of the frame then. Well, I have changed position. I knew I would. It just wasn't working over that way. I've lost that shadow that I was talking about earlier. So I've simplified it a bit, moved a bit closer to the rock, and a little bit tighter composition. Sun's still dropping. Another 20 minutes, I reckon we should be good to go. I'm using I know I said earlier on about a grad filter cutting into the top of the rock here, but I've used a soft grad. I've used a 0.9 at the moment. I might change that to a 0.6 once the light drops right down. But we'll see how it goes. I'm doing the last bit of housekeeping now. I'm basically wandering around brushing out footprints that have been left here before. The film photography, I tell you, it's a whole different ball game. But you know, obviously you can edit it later on, but I like to try and get it as good as I can. So we'll see if those show up in the final images. Well, here we go. Got some nice light at the moment, so I'm going to take a couple of frames. Frame 1. Up the shutter, lens is closed, half a second, f32. So I'm going to try one at 1 second. And I'm also going to try one at 1/4 of a second. So yeah, f22 was my meter reading, but I'm shooting at f32, so I was getting 1/4 of a second reading at f22, so I need to add a stop onto that. So this is frame number 3. Cut the shutter. The light's disappeared again now, so I'm going to wait for another couple of minutes for that last frame. I've got quite a few wind noise. The wind is just a nightmare. I've got a couple of rolls of Ektar with me, so I might finish this roll off and then wait for the sun to drop a little bit more and then try another roll. I was going to shoot a roll of black and white tonight as well, but I think I'm going to stick with the colour because I think this sky is going to ping in about half an hour. So I'm going to load up another roll of Ektar so I'm ready. I'm shielding my microphone from the wind again. It seems to be a running theme for these videos, but needs must. So yeah, I've loaded my second film back up. I've still got one frame left on this one. That's the beauty of having this system's great, because you've got different film backs, unlimited basically. If you want to buy 3 or 4 film backs, you can, and have loads of different types of film loaded up, ready to go. So I'm just waiting for it to drop a little bit more. I'll finish this roll off, and then I'm going to wait a little bit longer just for the light to dip down, and I've got a feeling it's going to light these clouds. That's what I'm hoping. But I'm getting the light on this side of the rock on the right hand side, so it's great. Even though there's no direct light, it's giving me a nice glow on these rocks, which is lovely. Well, I'm making all kinds of mistakes tonight. I think I've just cocked up the first roll. I don't know what happened. It seems to have wound it on backwards for some reason. I don't know why. We'll have to see when it gets developed. This roll I'm yet to find out. But yeah, on the plus side, the sky's looking great at the moment. Whether or not I've got any photos is another thing. So I've got 2 frames left now to finish off this roll. So it's colouring up really nicely now. So I think I'm going to get those off now before it gets too dark in the foreground. Okay, that was a wild 20 minutes of light, so it's just dying off now. So I'm going to wrap up. I'm freezing cold now, so I'm going to wrap up and go back up to the van. Marvellously, the wind's actually stopped now. Would you believe it? But yeah, I'm going to get these films off. Hopefully, I don't know what's happened to them. They've both come out back to front from the looks of it. I don't know. But we shall see. We'll get them into the lab tomorrow. We'll get the results back, and then I'll get them scanned and see what we've got. Well, despite my initial concerns about film unloading, both rolls have got all the pictures. There's a little bit of light leak on this last frame, but generally spacing's good. No creases, and 8 frames. So this was my initial shoot with the first roll. You can see I've chosen this one here. Nice range of tones there. A couple of them were a little bit underexposed on the rocks and the side rock on the headland there. So I've chosen this one, which I'm going to scan. And then my last roll, when light improved a bit, there's 2 frames here that look like a nice range of tones. This one particularly, I think we've got some nice sky there, so I'm going to get those scanned and get those up. But yeah, pretty pleased. The light during this first roll that I shot was quite direct and contrasty. You can see that the tones are a lot more sharper. With the 1 second exposure that I used on the water, it gave me some motion blur, but not quite enough. I wanted a little bit more. Overall, happy with the picture, but it's a little bit too contrasty for me. After beginning to lose hope after that first roll and my unloading the film issues, I decided to stick around, and I'm glad I did. Another 20 minutes later and things have improved. Much more subtle tones, longer exposure time, which has blurred the water, and overall the sort of soft colours, I much prefer this shot. Well, despite my errors with the film, everything turned out pretty well with this shoot, better than I thought it would in fact. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I'm going to be shooting some urban scenes next, so I hope you can join me on the next one. For now, I shall see you later.